Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of Cutter One. I'm your host, Jay Just Jay, your resident troublemaker and your resident culture warrior. I hope you're all doing really, really good as we sort of fight our way through the middle of the week. All right, so got some interesting news. All right, this one squarely belongs in the "see, told you" category. Um, and for folks like me, this was kind of like, something we were saying all along. So let's get right into it. This is coming to us from The Hollywood Reporter. Now, I'm sure you've seen other people talking about this story because despite what Amazon and others would have you believe, that it's no big deal, it kind of is, right? When you really break down what it's saying. So it says inside Amazon Studios, big swings hampered by confusion and frustration. Despite ambitious bets like Daisy Jones and the Six and the upcoming Citadel, insiders complain that there's still no vision for what an Amazon Prime show is. But Chief Jennifer Salke says they are missing the point. You don't reverse engineer true creative vision. All right. Let's see what we have here. It's long been an open secret that Jeff Bezos has yearned for his own Game of Thrones, and that Amazon's big swing, I'm assuming as it, but I'm assuming they meant at it, reached for its own massive hit was The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, believed to be the most expensive series ever made. Last September, the show began with a bang, delivering the biggest debut ever on the streamer in what Amazon Studios chief Jennifer Salke called, quote, a very culturally defining moment, unquote, for the company. But when season one wrapped, the show was less defining than hoped, falling short of being the breakout hit that Amazon had envisioned. While Amazon, like other streamers, provided only limited data, and internally it held information even more closely than usual on the series, sources confirm that The Rings of Power had a 37% domestic completion rate, customers who watched the entire series. Overseas, it reached 45%. A 50% completion rate would be a solid but not spectacular result, according to insiders. The show has not been a major awards contender either, overlooked by the major guilds with the exception of one SAG-AFTRA nomination for Stunt Ensemble. But according to Salke, the series has worked. Quote, this desire to paint the show as anything less than a success. It's not reflective of any conversation I'm having internally, unquote, she says. The second season, currently in production, will have more dramatic story turns, she adds, quote, that's a huge opportunity for us. The first season required a lot of setting up, unquote. Data from Nielsen on minutes watched reveals that when it comes to original shows generally, Amazon has lagged. In 2022, Netflix hoovered up the top 10 spots for original streaming series, with Amazon's The Boys in 11th place, ahead of The Rings of Power at number 15. Using the same measurement, none of the top 15 originals of 2021 came from Amazon. Netflix again took all the slots except for Hulu's The Handmaid's Tale in 10th place, Apple's Ted Lasso at 12, and Disney's WandaVision in the 14th spot. Many current and former Amazon executives, as well as showrunners who have series at the streamer and agents who make deals there, believe that this is no accident. They describe Amazon Studios as a confusing and frustrating place to do business when it comes to movies, where Amazon's footprint is expanding following the $8.5 billion acquisition of MGM a year ago. A veteran producer says that in recent years, there has been no sense of what the philosophy is. On the series side, numerous sources say they cannot discern what kind of material Salke and head of television Vernon Sanders want to make. A showrunner with ample experience at the studio says, quote, there's no vision for what an Amazon Prime show is. You can't say they stand for this kind of storytelling. It's completely random what they make and how they make it. Another showrunner with multiple series at Amazon finds it baffling that the streamer hasn't had more success. Amazon has, quote, more money than God, unquote, this person says. If they wanted to produce unbelievable television, they certainly have the resources to do it. But Salke believes the studio's approach fits Amazon's broad remit. Quote, I have never been one to say to the creative community, we need 5 action franchise shows and 3 workplace situation comedies. That's the kiss of death, she says. You don't reverse engineer true creative vision. We are programming for over 250 million households across the entire globe. We would say we have a big, broad audience, and we are looking for content that entertains the 4 quadrants, that is, male and female, under 35 and over 35. The question that makes many in Hollywood nervous is whether the Amazon Studios overlords in Seattle believe they are getting enough bang for their megabucks. The last thing the industry wants at a time of belt tightening is a cutback in spending from a deep-pocketed buyer. According to Salke, that concern is misguided. Quote, the proof exists that the giant tentpole shows are driving people to subscribe to Prime, she says. Do we pressure ourselves to be more disciplined, more strategic? Of course. We consistently examine if we're producing the right amount of content at the right value to drive the most engagement across our service. Like Apple, Amazon is not a traditional entertainment company, but a huge retailer with a side hustle in Hollywood. Amazon's view is that the more hours you spend watching Prime Video, the more likely you are to renew your membership and the more likely you are to shop on the site. As Amazon, like Netflix, pursues overseas growth in the wake of saturation in the US, Salke notes that in some countries like South Africa and Argentina, Amazon's programming is the tip of the spear, entering the territory before retail sales or fast, free shipping is even available. International is everything, she says. It is our business to deliver global shows for a global audience. The streamer has certainly had its success stories, including buzzy shows like Transparent, The Marvelous Miss Maisel, and Fleabag, and popular series like The Boys, Jack Ryan, Jack Reacher, and The Terminal List. But it has arguably never had a brand defining show that is a commercial and critical juggernaut in the vein of HBO's Game of Thrones, Netflix Stranger Things, or Apple's Ted Lasso. And all of those Amazon series, except Jack Reacher and The Terminal List, were launched when Salke's predecessor, Roy Price, ran the studio. Price departed in 2017 amid allegations of improper conduct. Salke took over in 2018. One of Salke's first greenlights was Daisy Jones and the Six, based on the Taylor Jenkins Reid novel and co-produced by Reese Witherspoon's Hello Sunshine. Lauren Neustadter, president of film at Hello Sunshine, says she and Witherspoon had lunch with Salke just as she was starting at Amazon. She was really clear and articulate in her vision for what she wanted to do with the job, Neustadter says. Reese and I both said Daisy is all the things she was talking about. The book, the show, fashion. We had big dreams for this. Amazon put more than $140 million into production, in part due to the high COVID protocol costs. The show dropped March 3rd with solid numbers and eventually topped Parrot Analytics' weekly engagement chart. The 2-year-old novel popped back onto Amazon's bestseller list, and the retailer is able to sell tie-in merchandise. Aurora, an album featuring songs from the fictional band, is climbing the Billboard charts. However, insiders say the show remains shy of the breakout hit the studio hoped for. Released around the same time, Donald Glover's Swarm is also delivering strong results for Amazon at a more modest $30 million budget. A far more costly and troubled production was the Russo brothers' Citadel, which debuts on April 28th. Anthony Russo says Salke first approached AGBO, the Russo's production company, with a general concept of making a U.S. show with international foreign language versions. AGBO came up with a global spy show where you would have a mothership U.S. language show alongside foreign language versions in other countries, Russo says. The various versions are related to one another, but they also exist independently and distinct from one another. Some of the international shows may be set in different time periods, he adds. Amazon has committed to 3 seasons of 3 versions of the show. So far, a local language production is underway in Italy and in early stages in India. We love the ability to communicate with people all over the world and to connect people through stories, Russo continues. Amazon and Jen basically brought us a brand new opportunity to do that at a scale that's never been attempted before. But in December 2021, with production well underway, the Russo brothers decided to replace showrunner Josh Applebaum. It was clear after some audience feedback and discussion that some changes needed to be made, says Mike LaRocca, president and co-founder of AGBO. We felt like it needed some more character work and work early to draw people into the show. It was that straightforward. Applebaum declined to comment. David Weil took over as showrunner. When Joe Russo came on set, a huge bunch of material was tossed out. An insider says, sources say the cost of the series climbed toward $300 million, making it Amazon's second most expensive show after Lord of the Rings. In an onstage March 10th conversation with Salke at South by Southwest, Priyanka Chopra said her work on Citadel was the first time she had achieved pay parity in 22 years. That prompted some Amazon executives to joke internally that this was actually the first and second time since she and other leads on the show got paid significantly more than planned due to massive reshoots. While the original plan called for 8-hour-long episodes, the show that will drop on Amazon in April ended up at 6, roughly 40-minute episodes. Amazon has already renewed it for a second season of 6-hour-long episodes. There are a couple of relationships where I don't really understand the bet that is being made, says one Amazon veteran of the commitment to the project. But Jen believes in the Russos. Yeah, okay. I don't want to go through the whole thing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, they just talk more about Amazon and their issues with Amazon and Amazon and Amazon and Amazon. Okay. All right. So, yeah, pretty much just more Amazon garbage. But the key takeaway here that I wanted to talk about that's relevant to the conversations that we've been having was the poor numbers. The really poor numbers. So, I'm just trying to pull it up right here. Yeah, here we go. The Rings of Power had a 37% domestic completion rate. That means if you take that number and let's round it up to make it an even 40%, that means that only 4 out of every 10 people that watched Rings of Pewter actually watched the entire series. Meaning 6 out of 10 people that watched that show were intelligent, smart, and thinking people who, after watching however many episodes they may have watched, said, fuck this, I'm out. Like, I'm not putting myself through any more of this. So that's interesting. So the real numbers, despite what Amazon will say, like, oh, we had over 1 billion minutes of view time, and it was the number one show on our network, on Amazon, right? The reality is that only 40%, 37 to be exact, 37% of people who bothered to tune in for any of the episodes of Rings of Power, only 37% of them bothered to watch the entire series. That's how bad it was. That the majority, almost 2/3 of the people who watched Rings of Pewter threw in the towel and said, I can't do this. It's that garbage, okay? And overseas wasn't much better. Overseas, it was 45%, okay? So literally, you have a less than 50% audience retention rate over the 8-episode series, okay? So that means people could have checked in for 1 or 2, maybe 3 episodes and then said, I'm done with this nonsense. You know what I mean? That's the real story. So despite, however, how you hear them try to spin this, despite how you hear them, try to put a happy face on it, the reality is those numbers speak volumes. Okay. When you lose 2/3 of your audience over the course of your series, and it was only an 8-episode series. Okay, it wasn't like they had like the old school back in the day when a season of a show was like 26 episodes, right? They had 8, and they couldn't keep 2/3 of their audience with 8 episodes, and that's the real story there, folks. And that's something that we've always said. It's like the old saying goes, right? Garbage in, garbage out. Right. And that's what Amazon came up with garbage. Rings of Pewter is garbage, and the numbers are now showing it. Right. As like I said before, when Nielsen gave their numbers for the top shows of 2022, the only way Rings of Pewter got included in the list was if they had to give the quote top 15. Okay. If they had just done the top 10, which is what they normally do. Okay. Rings of Pewter wouldn't have made it onto the list at all. for 2022, but they had to stretch the list out to the top 15 in order for it to even show up on the list. And even then, it showed up in last place. Okay. And now these numbers confirm that even further. This is why, because it was a garbage show where they even lost 2/3 of the audience that was willing to tune in. They lost 2/3 of them over the course of 8 episodes. And it just goes to show that, if they had done the story right, if they had been, adhered to the lore and adhered to what Tolkien wrote, and they hadn't tried to come up with quote unquote the book that Tolkien never wrote, then maybe they would have had better numbers. Maybe they would have been able to not sort of hide and futz with the numbers and not let you see it, for fear of them being outed as being a crappy show. But they didn't, and so this is what you get. You get this stuff coming out. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you because it just means that, overall, we were right. So, haha, Amazon, told you. You can try and spin it however you want. At the end of the day, you have a crappy show. All the numbers that keep coming out keep pointing to the fact that you have a crappy show, and we're just here enjoying the fact that finally you have no choice but to acknowledge, or, if you're smart, acknowledge that maybe the fans were right. But, anyway, that's it for now. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. This gave me a warm fuzzy finding out this information. It was sort of like some validation, like for everything that me and others have been saying about this show. It just goes to prove that, no, we weren't just crazy wackos looking for reasons to hate the show, that literally everybody who was watching the show, or at least 2/3 of the people watching the show, were also thinking that this is garbage, not worth, watching anymore. So yeah, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Remember, if you like the video, then like the video. If you want to share the video, by all means do so. It helps us with the YouTube algorithm. It helps us get seen. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would hope that you would consider turning that red subscribe button gray and joining the army of beautiful badasses. And if you are a returning subscriber, as always, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You guys and gals are the reasons why I do this. All right, that's going to do it for now. Remember, if you want, I will put the link down in the description below. Join us over on the Discord where we talk about this and a whole bunch of other fantasy and sci-fi related stuff, as well as check out the merch store. I got the link down below. And I just opened up the new merch store, which handles all of the 3D printed stuff, right? Because I do 3D printing, and I've got some Lord of the Rings 3D printed stuff that's also available. So, yeah, check that out. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Remember, as always, be good, be safe, be awesome, but more importantly, stay more dorkish. Peace.